So, Little Women just finished airing a little while ago, and I had so many thoughts and opinions on the drama that I'm going to vomit it out in this video. So, this drama is super engaging, and it really makes you think. Not only about the plot and what's going to happen next, but also about our society in general. The drama deals with class issues and the ultra-rich society and what people are willing to do for the sake of becoming wealthy, earning status and money, or maintaining their status and money. So apparently this drama is loosely based on the novel Little Women. I've never read the novel or watched any of the other adaptations, so I'm not sure how similar this drama is to those, but I'm just gonna guess that they're pretty different. That's just the vibe I'm getting. This drama mainly revolves around three sisters, In-joo, In-kyung, and In-hye. They're struggling financially, and the two oldest sisters, In-joo and In-kyung, take responsibility in providing for their family, mainly for their high school age sister In-hye. Through crazy and sometimes stress-inducing plot points, some gardening, and some painting, this drama tells the story of what these three women will do in order to give themselves a better life. Blood pressure aside, I think this drama is incredibly engaging and also thought-provoking. Not only does it make you excited to find out what's going to happen next, it also makes you think about our society and class issues in general, and it's definitely worth a watch. This drama's characters were flawed, but very easy to root for or root against based on what the drama wanted us to do. I grew to care about all three of the sisters and the other characters in general. They all felt very distinct from each other and were very interesting in their own ways. I didn't find too many moments to be out of character, which I think is rare for dramas that have crazy storylines. Do characters act dumb? Yes. Out of character? No. In other dramas or movies, characters will sometimes act out of character for the sake of advancing the plot, which I didn't really notice here. The drama also doesn't often linger on things for too long, which makes it super fast-paced. Sometimes it can be a little hard to follow, but for the most part, things are explained pretty well. There were some plot points or situations that I wish the drama kind of slowed down and lingered on. But for the most part, the writing is great at picking certain aspects or character dynamics to spend time on, and which ones to breeze through. Because of the writing, I found myself questioning everything about this drama. Certain characters' actions and intentions are always put into question, which makes you unsure about whose side they're on and why they're truly doing certain things. The drama doesn't allow you to truly trust any character, which really kept me on my toes and also stressed me out. The villains of this drama were very multidimensional in that they truly felt evil, but we also got to see their more vulnerable moments. They felt like real people, which is what gave their actions and words more weight. There were some instances where I even felt sympathetic to some of the villains, but it wasn't to a point where their actions were justified or excused. I love the scenes with the two main villains. Their dynamic was super interesting to follow because it evolved over the course of the drama as we learned more about them. I'm talking specifically about Park Jae-sung and Won Sang-ga. The drama had great writing overall in my opinion, but I did feel like the first two-ish episodes were a little too exposition-y. Like, the dialogue in almost every scene had some backstory thrown in to the point where it felt a little unnatural to me. And then once I noticed it, I kept noticing it and it started bothering me. But it's not so bad that it ruins the drama or anything, and after the first two episodes, I never really noticed it, but something that I just wanted to point out in case it bothers you as well. If you're looking for a new drama to binge watch, I'd highly recommend this one. The episodes end in a way that makes you want to watch more, and they're so fast-paced that I doubt you'll get bored when watching it. It's also good for a slower watch too, since each episode will leave you with a lot to think about and theorize about. This drama is just a super chaotic and fun ride, and I highly recommend it. And the cinematography is beautiful. There were so many scenes that made me feel like I was watching artwork and not just a drama. I think the best way for me to do a deep dive into this drama is to go through each character, so spoilers from this point on. I loved In-joo, and I think she was a really likable and easy to root for protagonist. She was just earnest in everything she did, and I never felt like the journey she took changed who she was at the core. She was a really interesting mix of idealistic or sometimes naive, and also jaded at the same time. She was really realistic and jaded about their family situation, and she felt that having money would allow her and her family to live the life that she wanted, which was simply a life of peace and security. At the same time, she was very naive and idealistic about the people around her and her relationships with them. Like, whenever Chae Do-il says something that just makes him sound like he only cares about money, she would always say something like, "Wow, I thought we were becoming friends, but you just care about money." And she's also initially manipulated by Won Sung-ah when she hears her sob story about playing the role of the good wife and feeling trapped in her life. I think this contrast made her a unique and interesting character to follow. I found it very easy to sympathize with her and her struggles. Her actions are always what she believes is best for her family, and even if she doesn't handle every situation perfectly, she does her best. For the most part, I could understand her decisions, even if they weren't necessarily the same ones that I'd make if I were in that situation. Like when she lets the In-joo shipper beat her up for money. Personally, I would not literally die for money, but to each their own. Also, shout out to the In-joo shipper, by the way. I swear 50% of her dialogue was convincing people that Chae Do-il liked In-joo or asking Chae Do-il himself if he liked In-joo. A true representation of the Little Women viewer. Also, believing the letters that she got in Singapore were from Hwa-young. Like, I'm sure the likelihood of being alive was low, but I get In-joo was still mourning from that loss and she was probably wanting to cling on to any signs that she was alive. Those signs ended up being legitimate signs because Hwa-young was actually alive, but I'll get to that later. But there were some of In-joo's actions that made me like, what are you doing? Hello? Firstly, she was walking around all of Seoul with her big bag of billions of dollars. Like, what if she lost it or got robbed? And that also attracts a lot of attention to yourself. And then in Singapore, she decides to chug some random blue drink that's sitting in an apartment that she's not even 100% sure is Hwa-young's. Like, we've been looking at blue flowers for 8 episodes at this point, and you thought it'd be a good idea to drink a random blue substance? Huh? And then in the finale, why did she go to Sung-a's house without telling Chae Do-il? In-joo, why do you do this? Okay, dumb decisions aside, I did like that she wasn't exactly the smart, cunning character who somehow already knew how to navigate this new world. She was an unwilling participant in this ultra-rich, corrupt world who just saw an opportunity to make a better life for herself and her family. So it makes sense that she wouldn't immediately know how to act in the face of money, laundering billions of dollars, and random blue flowers that apparently cause you to hallucinate. I think for the most part, the mistakes that she made felt true to her character. For me, In-joo was also an easy character to relate to because her desires in life and the things she wanted to do with the money were relatively humble and understandable. Her main desire is to get an apartment with windows for her and her sisters and to have a more peaceful life. I think throughout this drama, she sort of loses sight of this as she gets deeper and deeper into this world. Later in the drama, she becomes more determined to take down the Won family and to get her $70 billion at the same time. But I like the way they wrapped up this part of her arc with her speech in the courtroom during her hearing. After spending time in jail, she's reminded of what she really wants in life, which is to be in peace with the people she cares about. I really like the scene of her crying in the apartment her great aunt saves for her. I think that was her way of kind of releasing all of the emotions and stress that she had pent up after this crazy journey she just went through. That, along with the monologue of her saying that a home is where souls can rest, makes me think that this was her way of resting her soul in her new apartment and showing that this is a place where she could be safe and at peace. So kind of like her accomplishing the goal that she came with in this drama. I think her story wraps up nicely with In-hye telling her in the letter that she should finally live for herself instead of for her sisters, including getting an apartment for herself and not just for the whole family. Okay, In-kyung is kind of a hot mess, but I love her. She just doesn't believe in peace. Like, she's unhinged enough to let a random dog bite her in the arm just to get the scoop she needs for her story on the Jungran Society. Like, I respect the dedication, but I think there should be a limit. So In-kyung has a passion for justice, which often results in her doing risky and impulsive things. Like a lot of the times when she gets new information on the Won family, she plays her hand right away, when it might have been better to lay low until she gets all the information she needs. She doesn't really think through her actions all the time because she's very tunnel vision-y towards her goal of getting justice against Park Jae-sung and the Won family. Even though her actions can be frustrating to watch at times, her intentions are always good, which made me root for her anyways. Like In-joo, I would say In-kyung is an interesting mix of jaded and idealistic, but in a different sense. She's jaded in the sense that she doesn't believe people at face value, and she claims she's able to read people pretty easily. She doesn't immediately trust Chae Do-il like In-joo does, and she immediately senses Park Jae-sung's bad intentions before even meeting him. But she's idealistic in the sense that she believes that her reporting will take down the Won family, despite all the obstacles obstacles she faces throughout the drama. Even when the odds seem to be against her, she stays firm in her beliefs. Like when she tells Hee-jae that she can take Park Jae-sung down with her reporting when he makes plans to take him down in other ways. These aspects of In-joo and In-kyung's personalities clash at times, which was really interesting to watch. In-kyung seems to have a very black and white view on what's right and wrong, and is determined to do things in a way that would be seen as morally correct even without context. Meanwhile, In-joo is more willing to do things that may be seen as wrong if they're in the best interests of her family because she feels there's no other way. I think a key example of this is when In-kyung finds out about the initial 2 billion won that In-joo gets from Hwa-young. In-kyung disapproves of In-joo using it and even says she report the money if In-joo uses it. In-kyung's need for chaos seems to be in every aspect of her life. Her job is chaotic since she only reports on very serious and intense stories like hurricanes and natural disasters. She also seems to want a chaotic love life. When Jung-ho confesses his feelings for her, she says she thinks love should make your heart pound, whereas Jung-ho makes her heart feel like alpha waves. When I was watching this scene, I was thinking, isn't that a good thing? I think towards the end of the drama, she realizes that having some sort of calmness and peace in your life is important. She slowly reciprocates her friend's feelings and even seeks comfort in him during stressful events throughout the drama. I'm just happy that In-kyung was able to take down the Won family for the sake of mine and everyone else's sanity. So despite being the youngest sister, I think In-hye was the most rational. This isn't saying a lot, but still. She's also pretty similar to both her sisters in different ways. Like In-joo, she's very aware of her family situation, and she believes that to get the life that she wants, she needs to associate herself with the ultra-rich. She's driven by her desire to leave her current life. Based on the scenes during her surgery earlier in the drama, I think that she also feels a sense of danger with her current situation because of the sister that passed away since their family couldn't afford treatment for her. It doesn't help that In-hye initially believes that this sister was actually herself. She doesn't seem totally appreciative of the love that her sisters give her because it ties her down to her family, and in her eyes it keeps her in danger. Throughout the drama, she's guilty about the things her sisters have done for her and the way that they struggle to give her a better life. And this guilt seems to turn into resentment. Because their parents are absent in their life, In-joo and In-kyung take on the responsibility of providing for In-hye, and unfortunately it isn't able to amount to much due to circumstances that are out of their control. I like how the drama plays with the idea with In-hye potentially betraying her sisters and getting deeper in with the Won family due to her desperation. To In-hye, the Won family is her way out of her dangerous situation and her opportunity to get a better life. I think initially it seemed like she would be going down a similar path to Park Jae-sung since they had a lot of similarities. Both came from poor families and had a lot of talent and promise, and both were noticed by someone in a position of power because of that. The scene where Park Jae-sung asks if In-hye is willing to betray the people she loves most in order to become like him made me uncertain about what In-hye was going to do. She was clearly desperate to leave her situation, but I was curious to see how far she would go. I think there were some things she did that initially made me think that she would gradually do something extreme against her sisters, like when she stops In-joo from taking the security camera footage and the way she ignores In-kyung at her great aunt's funeral. There's also the part where the drama makes you initially think that In-hye went to Japan and stole Hyorin's shares and bank account info. But like In-kyung, In-hye seems to stay true to her morals and is constantly seen helping her sisters out to achieve their goals of taking down the Won family. Like when she eventually gives In-joo the security footage and how she helps Hyorin realize how evil her family actually is and eventually helps her escape from them by going to Japan. She saw the mess and she decided she wanted no part of it, which I respect. In-hye is able to balance her desires to become wealthy while also staying true to her morals, something the two other sisters seem to struggle with a little more. I also really like the letter In-hye gives to In-joo and In-kyung at the end of the drama, kind of putting all of her feelings on paper, like her guilt and her gratitude towards the sisters for everything they've done for her. It helped explain her actions throughout the drama, particularly the times where she rejected In-joo and In-kyung's attempts to give her money or provide her support. It came from a sense of unworthiness and uncertainty of whether she could repay them. I think In-hye comes to realize the value of her sister's love and that it can be a safety net for her rather than a source of danger or a reason to be tied down. In some sense, her sister's love and support for her sets her free because she's able to live independently in Japan and start a life for herself. This man man gave me so much whiplash. I could never tell whose side he was on, which was what made him a really interesting character. He makes it clear in the beginning of the drama that he's driven by money, so that always made me question if he would stay by In-joo's side if a different opportunity to get money presented itself. Like, we'd get scenes that made me think he actually liked and cared for In-joo, but at the back of my mind I was like, what if he's just pretending to be like this for the money and he wouldn't hesitate to betray her? It made me question all of his actions, especially when he told In-joo to do certain things that were a little more drastic or risky, like telling her to work for Hwa-young or to go to Singapore because of the fake In-joo. Later in the drama, we see that he's driven by other things, like his family, mainly his mom. He's driven by his desire to get justice and safety for her, because she was forced to become involved with the Won family because of Chae Do-il's dad, and that results in her being put in jail for 30 years. Chae Do-il's family was torn apart by the Won family, and putting an end to them would allow him to get what's left of his family back. The drama also uses this to put his loyalty into question. When Park Jae-sung offers money and protection for him and his mother in exchange of revealing his dad's location, it initially seems like he accepts it. But then the drama throws a curveball and says he was just doing it to throw Park Jae-sung off. Maybe I just needed to have more faith in his character because I 100% thought that he betrayed In-joo. The most stressful part of this for me is that whenever he would betray In-joo, it never felt out of character. When he agrees to the offer to reveal his dad's plans, it seemed like he was concerned for his mom's safety, and this looked like the only way for him to keep her safe. And then later, when it seems like he's taken out the 7 billion won out of In-joo's account and that he's going to testify against her, it lined up with his initial admissions of only caring about money. But then it always turned out that he was still on In-joo's side, and in the end he comes through by implicating Won-sung-a in the money laundering schemes and coming to In-joo's rescue when she's trapped at Won-sung-a's house. I really enjoyed the dynamic between In-joo and Do-il. It seemed like he respected her for who she was, despite her being very unaware of how this ultra-rich and corrupt world works. He never makes her feel stupid unless it's for their benefit. On that note, I thought it was hilarious how he'd use In-joo's lack of knowledge as an asset, and In-joo would always look so offended. Like when he doesn't tell her about his plans with his dad with the car bombing because she's a bad liar, and when he gets her out of serving a long sentence for money laundering by telling the judge that she's financially illiterate. Like, thank you, I think. I think Do-il found In-joo to be very endearing. Whenever she'd say something a little ridiculous or questionable, he'd always laugh or have a look of amusement. He never makes her change who she is and actually uses some of her behaviors and personality traits that might be seen as a weakness as an advantage to get what he needs. Like her being financially illiterate and her tendency to take things at face value. I like how the nature of their relationship was left a little ambiguous in the end. They clearly like each other, but it's not really clear if it's platonically or romantically. I get the sense that In-joo was interested in Do-il romantically based on how she looked at him during their last scene together, but I can't really tell with Do-il. Like I said, I think he definitely found her endearing and different from the usual people he encounters in his line of work, but I'm not sure if that really means something romantically. His coworker clearly thought he was in love with her though. The biggest In-joo stan, the truest representation of the viewers, like I said. So I'm going to talk about these two together because I think they had such an interesting dynamic throughout the drama. At first, the drama establishes Park Jae-sung as the true evil and the mastermind behind everything, while framing Won-sung-a as the suppressed good wife who is more of a victim. Park Jae-sung is seen as the head of the household at first, since he's the one running for mayor. And not only that, there are some scenes within the household that makes it seem like he's the more powerful and in-control parent. Like when he smashes the TV upon finding out Sung-a went to Singapore, when he interrogates her about what she did in Singapore and checks her luggage, and when he traps Won-sung-a in her bedroom for a few days and gives her sleeping pills. But as we see them interact more and more, it becomes clear that their dynamic is more complicated than that. Won-sung-a has more power and control over Park Jae-sung and their family's crimes than I initially thought. Some of the things that Park Jae-sung does is because of his love for Won-sung-a, and she uses this love to control him. Like, at first it seemed that Park Jae-sung killed Hwa-young, but it turns out that it was actually Won-sung-a, and Park Jae-sung was most likely at the crime scene to clean up her mess. And she also convinces him to kill In-kyung because she apparently ruins her plans to kill In-joo and create art or whatever. Whenever Park Jae-sung accomplishes something in his political career, it always seems like he's also seeking Won-sung's approval at the same time. And throughout the drama, he repeatedly says that he's doing all of this for her. It feels like Park Jae-sung is also at the mercy of Won-sung's behavior. Like when she tries to kill In-joo and he has to beg her to stop. This was also probably motivated by In-kyung and the ledgers that she was holding against him, but I feel like Park Jae-sung would have tried to prevent Won-sung from killing In-joo anyways. And in the end, Won-sung is actually the one who tells Park Jae-sung to sacrifice his life for the society. They both have some sort of power over the other. Park Jae-sung is the one with the status and standing within the Jongwon society, which gives him some power in actual society and in turn some power in their household. But Won-sung is able to weaponize his love for her in order to have control over him. Following their relationship and getting more insight into it was probably one of my favorite parts of this drama. Hwa-young is pretty unique to the other characters in this drama because even though she passes away pretty early on, we still get to learn quite a bit about her through the other characters and the things that they discover about Hwa-young's past and the Jongwon society in general. So even though she was dead for most of the drama, she still feels like a real and fleshed out character. There were a lot of scenes with her from the past that helped to develop her character. We got to see her grieve the loss of her mom and start to plan her revenge against the Won family. We also get to see her share her bookkeeping of the future company to both In-joo and Do-il. The Singapore trip that Hwa-young takes with In-joo helps us see the moment where she decides to involve In-joo in her plans, and we get to see their friendship between them. I really like how In-joo's grief for her loss was evident throughout the drama and not just the first few episodes. It's most evident when In-joo is in Singapore and she has some hope that Hwa-young is alive, even sneaking away from Do-il just for the small chance to see her. The drama has a lot of scenes that show how much Hwa-young and In-joo cared for each other. The scenes in the beginning of the drama with Hwa-young shows their tight-knit relationship, like when Hwa-young tells In-joo about her relationship with some of the other people in the company, and when she takes her to a fancy restaurant and lends In-joo some nicer clothing. Even though In-joo herself starts to have some doubts about whether Hwa-young genuinely cared for her or was just using her, to me it seemed like Hwa-young saw In-joo as a little sister and even someone that she could mentor. The reveal of Hwa-young actually being alive was really cool and probably one of my favorite scenes of the drama. We just see the heels of someone walking into court, then we see the shocked faces of the other characters with the screen slowly unblurring to reveal Hwa-young. In-joo is the last to see Hwa-young in court because her back is faced away from her, and the episode ends with In-joo's face of shock and disbelief. It was just a really cool way to film such an important moment in the drama. I do kind of question the whole fake death thing though, because I don't think the girl Hwa-young used as a doppelganger really looked like her, and also wouldn't Won-sung have known it wasn't Hwa-young when she went to kill her? Like, did she not look at who she was killing? And how did Hwa-young know that Won-sung was going to kill her around this time? Despite all these plot hole and questions that I have, it was still a really cool scene regardless. I've heard some mixed thoughts on the plot and ending, so I wanted to share some of my thoughts as well. I didn't really have many issues with the plot itself. There were probably some plot holes, but I personally don't mind plot holes that much as long as they're not so major that it ruins the show and that the plot makes sense overall. I also have a TikTok-length attention span, so I don't really have enough in my brain to notice any plot holes. And this drama moves so fast that you don't really have much time to think about whether a certain plot point makes sense or not. There were a few things that bothered me though. They were pretty minor, so it didn't ruin the drama for me or anything. So first, when In-joo was trapped in the apartment in Singapore with Won-sung trying to kill her, In-kyung goes to Park Jae-sung to use the ledgers as leverage to save her life. And In-kyung mentions that if Park Jae-sung kills her, the ledgers will be released. But then when he burns the ledgers, she goes in search for new evidence. But if the ledgers would be released if she died, doesn't that mean she has a copy of them? So was she bluffing? I feel like that's a big bluff to make, so I don't know. But also In-kyung is unhinged, as I said, so this is definitely something she would do, so maybe it makes sense. Also, I mentioned before that I wish the drama lingered on certain plot points more. One of the main ones I think would have been cool to explore for a little longer was the death of their great aunt. The way episode 6 ended with In-joo hallucinating from the orchid and then having In-kyung find her lying with the great aunt's body made me think that In-joo might have been involved in her death unintentionally. The drama kind of plays with the idea that In-joo was involved, with some of the funeral guests whispering about how In-joo didn't want to speak with officers and how that made her suspicious. But then the drama kind of moves on. They do give an explanation for the great aunt's death by saying it was one of the houseworkers, but I found that to be a little underwhelming, especially after such a cool cliffhanger with In-joo holding her body. I think it would have been cool to explore this plot point a little more to make the audience legitimately question if In-joo killed her great aunt, because then it would have been such an out-of-character moment that would have highlighted the dangers of the Orchids itself and the world that In-joo has gotten herself into. Like an orchid that makes you accidentally kill people? That's scary. I think the plot of the drama wrapped up nicely, with everyone getting their main arcs resolved and having somewhat of a happy ending. I think all three of the sisters got what they wanted in the end, and they were able to achieve their goals, or have the opportunity to achieve their goals at least. So overall, I think the drama had a good ending. So I think this drama was great and a lot of fun to watch. It's rare for a drama to hold my attention for its entirety, but this drama did somehow. I can't really think of any parts of the drama that bored me or lagged, and I was invested in every storyline. This drama is very chaotic, but in the best way possible. I'd love to hear what you thought of this drama in the comments below, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about with this drama that I might have missed.